You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. Hey friend. So this week I wanted to talk about something that might seem almost too simple, but I found it to be very powerful. And it's come up a lot for me recently, particularly in coaching groups and talking to people, where people are really judging themselves or making it a big deal that they're effectively having a human experience, right? And I think the moment we tell ourselves, I shouldn't be experiencing this, I'm evolved, I'm supposed to only be in bliss and all this kind of stuff, we turn something that often isn't a huge deal into something, well, we get lots of contaminated thinking on top, it locks it in place. There's this phrase that what we resist persists. And why is that, right? If you think about it, well, it's because that energy isn't being given the freedom to just kind of flow. And the psychological immune system, it kind of only asks one thing, that we don't try to control and manage the experience that we're having because we don't need to, because it's safe to have it. So I was talking to someone recently, and they, as far as I could tell, were having a bunch of very human experiences, right? They were missing their kids and, there was a lot of kind of like family dynamic stuff going on and that kind of thing. And so it seemed to me like a very natural response to have some feelings of sadness and all this kind of stuff. But what seemed to be happening was there was a lot of judgment in there. There was a lot of, I shouldn't be having this experience. I'm supposed to be feeling peaceful. And then there's that resistance to it, and the system kind of revs up in response to that. And I remember, I mentioned this recently, but somebody said to me a few months ago, what's the quickest way to get out of a funk? And I wanted to really just kind of sit and reflect on it. And what came to me was not making it a big deal that we're in a funk. I put together a podcast a few months back, or could have been a year ago now or more, called Don't Be in a Mood About Your Moods, right? We go up and down as humans. We go up and down, no matter how much we've seen, no matter how awake we are. The power of thought is always bringing our world to life. This invisible spiritual power is always bringing our internally generated world to life, and it's ebbing and flowing, and it's changing all the time. So we're going to be in different states of consciousness. Sometimes we're going to be higher. Sometimes we're going to be lower. And that's always unfolding. That's not wrong. That's just part of the human experience. We have moods, basically. And I think that's something very powerful to realize in our relationships, is that very often it's not that personal. We're going up and down. And when we're in a lower mood, the world looks a certain way. Then when we're in a higher mood, the world looks different. And that's knowing that we've always got a pair of kind of goggles on and we're looking out into the world through those goggles. That's really helpful information. And so for me, it's been hugely powerful for me not to make a big deal out of things. Sometimes it's the wisest thing in the world to just be feeling sadness for that moment, or to be feeling grief, or to be feeling whatever it is, connected. But the moment that we start kind of being in conflict or arguing with that, very often it's like we've put a dam in, and it stops that energy from just being able to flow. So if you think about how energy works, it has a charge, right? So if you think about water and, which the particular current of the water in a river, for example, well, if you put a dam in the place, that quite quickly the energy revs up. But without the dam, the water just flows in the way that it's kind of supposed to, and for the time it should do, and it moves through. And that's how it is with all emotional energies. I spoke before about how it's not our job to have to process emotions. Emotions are a process. They're their own self-resolving energetic charge. So we don't have to worry about managing them, controlling them, and all of that kind of stuff. And so I just kind of wanted to return to this today, because in my experience, the feelings of overwhelm, or that kind of crazy internal world that it's possible to be in the middle of, that's a signal as to how much kind of extra thinking we've got, how much unhelpful thinking have we got on top of what is just there to be felt. And we judge ourselves for these experiences, these emotional experiences that just show up. We all have responses to life, of course we do, and that's completely normal and natural, and that's going to continue. I spoke about this last week and I've spoken about it a lot recently. I certainly don't think that the point of spiritual recognition is to transcend our humanness so we never experience certain things. Like, I just think honestly, I think people have got the wrong end of the stick. And I talk about that because that used to be me, hanging out in the absolute, not having to be human, all this kind of stuff. And now I realize that, the magic is in realizing that it's all here to be experienced. It's all beautiful. It's all incredible. And then in that, we find that the energies, they rise and they fall as they kind of were intended to. The psychological immune system clears things through our system. We get the joy of being, I forget who said it, but fully human and fully divine in the truth of who and what we really are, and fully human in our unique experience that's showing up here in this moment. And so I just wanted to put that out there today. Is there a way in your life, is there somewhere in your life where you've been making it a big deal that you've felt a certain way, or that you've kind of been getting at yourself or telling yourself off because you've been having an experience that you shouldn't be having or whatever, just hold it lightly, see what moves through. All right, Rebel, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon.